Well, I'll do another election recount. I guess we'd call it update, or not recount, but counting update here on um, the November the 5th. Um, it looks like we're in a situation where it's getting very tight for Trump, I would say. He is going for a recount in Wisconsin, but the only way that would do him any good would be if he somehow uncovered and could prove some massive fraudulent activity, which probably isn't going to happen, but we'll see on that. There are a variety of wild claims going around, which some would seem sort of strange. There's a claim that some gigantic number of ballots on Michigan came in that were all Biden ballots, which it seems like that would be very suspicious that there would be no randomness at all in it. And again, I don't know if that's even true, but that's the kind of thing that's going around. So I guess the key thing that's coming up maybe today is the Nevada count, which last I saw they're saying 75% in, with the two sides, Biden leading by a very small amount. So that's kind of interesting, and we don't know the mix between the various counties. I guess the key thing is that Biden isn't leading as good in the Clark County, which is the Las Vegas area, as strongly as Clinton did, probably because of disgruntled workers in the casinos and hotels who probably are a lot of, or were working, maybe not working now. And so this is a more youthful group that's kind of anti-lockdown theoretically. So that's on the other hand, the state has gone all out of its way to, I think, maximize the chance of a Democrat win. I mean, it's and what's really frustrating about them is that their process seems to be completely opaque. I mean, we're in Georgia, whether you like the trends or not, at least you see day by day or even periodically updates on what the count is. So you kind of see what's happening here. We're supposed to be treated to unveil the curtain, and oh, there's the answer. And as I understand, poll watchers have been kept out of the counting centers and so forth. So this is kind of there's reason for a little optimism and reason for a lot of pessimism on that one. Um, Arizona, well, it's been called by Fox, and on the other hand, some other more liberal media haven't called it. And now I think even Nate Silver's getting a little nervous. So hard to know, though. They've got quite a bit to make up, and they have their own story as to who might have submitted a lot of ballots toward the end in person. As I understand, what we're talking about is people that filled out a paper ballot absentee and then walked it in like on election day, as opposed to actually standing in line to vote and dropped it off or something. And apparently, there's some belief on the part of the Trump and Republican and McSally camps that they have a substantial advantage in that group. And so far, it's been trending that way, I think, but perhaps not enough to change the make up for the deficit. So that's something yet to be, monitored. Um, Georgia, it's like one of those things in a dramatic movie where something bad's about to happen and it's getting closer and closer and closer. Now I understand there's something like 60, I think it was 65,000 absentee ballots that are yet to be counted. I thought they were kind of there yesterday, but now they're really not. So that probably means the Purdue Ossoff rates will be thrown into a runoff, unfortunately, and that increases the potential for the Senate Armageddon that I've talked about earlier occurring. On the other hand, I guess it looks like that the presidential race might actually get into almost a recount zone if Biden continues to grow. I think Trump's about, what was it, 4/10 ahead or something like that. And so if it's 65,000 ballots, and you assume they're going to be skewed toward Biden because of the emphasis on voting by mail on the Democrat side, well, there you have that. So it's going to be it's going to be a squeaker at best, one way or the other. So, and of course, it looks like North Carolina has decided that they were given a bunch of extra days to count, and so they're actually taking them. I haven't seen much movement there at all recently. Right now, it looks like Trump's ahead by a comfortable margin, and Tillis is ahead by a reasonable margin. But again, you have the situation that a lot of the ballots coming in are going to be from the Democrat side because of the virus concerns. So that's kind of the way that is. And then of course Pennsylvania, the big one. And of course there's a battle over. Right, Trump looks like a comfortable lead there, but again you have a lot of absentee ballots coming in and a lot of battles over poll watching and poll watchers being removed from the counting centers and obstacles being put up so people can't see what's going on, people being kept at a great distance. I made the comment on Twitter the other day that basically it's like a version of a poll, but it basically goes like this. Are the Democrats cheating or they just want to make us think they are? Because they certainly are doing the latter by their behavior. In other words, if you're not cheating, what damage could really be done by letting them watch? It seems like if there's nothing to see there that's unreasonable, then why should you not let them watch? And I think state law there says that they're required to do it. So, and I think I just saw a thing on the news before I started this where that they got in a court order and they're going into one center. We'll see what happens on that. The downside to all this is that, basically, I mean, there's talking about ballots coming in late, but the postmark issue, apparently they have to be postmarked by the 3rd or have to at least be postmarked and be obscured. I wonder just how many ballots of that sort there'll be. I mean, particularly the ones that the postmark won't be legible. I mean, there will be some, but will they really be the ones that are late anyhow? It looks like in some ways, on the one hand, they're a little bit grasping there, but on the other hand, there might be something there. The real issue, I think, are all the ballots being counted properly, or is there some asymmetry in which one gets counted and which one gets rejected? And the issue about, the signature verification, all that. So we'll see how that all plays out. And then, of course, the recounts in Wisconsin, again, and they may be trying for something in Michigan, but I think the rules there are a little tighter, if I remember from previous things of this sort, but if I remember correctly. It looks like the John James race might have more of a basis for a recount than the presidential there, actually. And of course, picking up a senator, I'm almost at this point more into the Senate than anything else because we have a clear chance, and I emphasize chance, not certainty, of holding on to the Senate. That would require Tillis to actually win, Perdue to win, and I guess, that's about, and everybody else has come in pretty good. It looks like under a best case scenario, we'd have 52 senators. If we lose one or two of them, we could get down to 50, which means with Harris being the vice president, hypothetically, that will break the tie and put the Senate in a narrow control of the Democrats. Of course, that still gives a lot of advantage when you have the majority leader and the control of every committee by the chairmanships and one extra member at least. That gives you an edge. On the other hand, if that's the only majority they have, it would only take one defector on their side to not go for some kind of a grand takeover scenario, and that might inhibit that. Certainly the Republicans have done better on the Senate by far than what they feared. Let's put it that way. And that's a good thing because that should help stabilize the government no matter how this presidential turns out. And so we'll just have to see what plays out here. One thing I kind of think there is one scenario also. I mean, certainly if Trump were to win Nevada, if he ends up squeaking out Georgia and North Carolina, and also wins Pennsylvania, then he would actually, I think, get up to, I think it's was it 273 or was it 274? And that 274 electoral votes, I think. So that's pretty good. That'd be a clear win. And the other would be that if Arizona reverses itself, I think that would put them up to 279. In other words, if they were able to turn this, most places other than Fox haven't projected it yet. So, which is kind of ironic that Fox, with its supposed Republican bias, is the one that's projected it for Biden. And last I saw, at least yesterday, CNN and MSNBC hadn't yet. So, I guess that's what that is. There's one other scenario I'd like to throw out briefly, and I think this is kind of a mad dog, low probability idea, but it's an interesting one. And that is, if you can get enough legal challenges going, and if you can keep the thing in flux, and that would require the cooperation of courts and so forth, which they probably won't get. But if they did, you could deliberately be angling to not to actually win it with electoral votes, but to simply throw it into the Congress, which would be an interesting situation. Because even if you had the 50-50 outcome in the Senate, potentially, of course, that gets into question would all the Republicans vote this way in that scenario. Well, they might for that one, because I'll explain why in a second. But the House, I think, will come in with a majority Republican state delegations. Because again, in that scenario, California counts one and Montana counts one. Any state that has an even number of Democrats and Republicans, they would conceivably cancel out to essentially abstain. So that leaves the potential for a Republican win for the presidency in the House. And I do think the Republicans would probably vote for Mike Pence over Kamala Harris for a couple of reasons. One, if the House had already gone for the president that way, then even if, and remember, Pence in a 50-50 scenario would still be the vice president at the time of the vote and could of course break the tie for himself. As I say, that's kind of a mad dog scenario because I think you'd have an outraged Democrat Party at that point. But on the other hand, it would also require the cooperation of the Supreme Court because, I mean, the Supreme Court might do the same sort of thing that they did in 2000 at some point. As they approach the deadline for the electors to vote, they might simply say, well, we're going to make some rulings that just put an end to all these challenges, And if they did, well, the electors would vote, they'd be certified and vote, and that would presumably be the way it would turn out. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing it this morning a little bit. I think there's still a very good chance on the Senate, but it's not totally without risk. Tillis isn't absolutely guaranteed. And if it goes into runoff in Georgia, you're talking, we are guaranteed that will be the worst case scenario, I think, for Georgia at this point is a runoff. But it's 2 Senate seats at the same time. And I understand it's on January the 5th or something like that. So that would be a very major race in Georgia, probably considering what's at stake. So it's an interesting. So that's kind of what I have for you today. We'll just have to see what happens with Nevada, which is supposed to come in shortly, and see what happens there. So if you like these videos, give me a like, subscribe, and you can forward them to anybody, of course. Forward the link, and that'll be all for today. Thank you.